Good morning. Here we are again for day 2 of the Alvarez bridge repair. So yesterday I had this thing clamped up. It's been clamped up now for about 24 hours. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the clamps off and then we'll see what it looks like and see if we managed to do the job well enough. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a bit of cleanup on it. So in order to clean it up, because of the way I clamped it, this section here, I couldn't get all the glue brushed off. So I cleaned it up as well as I could at the time. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little razor blade and I'm just going to slide in so that it's not digging into the body, it's just kind of resting, and it will slide in and it will just allow me to eat into the glue underneath there, and then I'll come down this way and I'll be able to kind of clean that off. But if I look at it as well, that belly that was originally there as well, looks like it's gone. So yeah, so all looks okay. So let me get that cleaned up and then we'll kind of see what it looks like and see what we need to do next. Right, I now have the bridge plate tidied up. So there's a couple of things left that I still need to do. One of those is where I have cleaned up the bridge area. There was some of the lacquer, and this happens quite often with manufactured guitars. So when the bridge came off, you could see there was about 1 millimeter of lacquer inside where the bridge should sit. So what that means is effectively the bridge isn't fully sitting on the wood of the guitar, it's actually sitting 1 millimeter in the air, and then you're just filling the rest of it with glue. So what I did was I scored away some of that millimeter. So what it does is when you then put it down, you then have the bridge like this, and you have the wood like this, and then there's this tiny little kind of ridge gap, whatever you want to call it. So what I just want to do is I want to go around there and I want to fill that in with some super glue just to act as a seal, really, more than anything else. But I've been around with a piece of paper trying to put a piece of paper under the bridge in all places around the bridge. There's no gaps, so I know it's solidly glued. So that's to complete the work on the bridge. It's just a little bit of glue, super glue to seal it, and super glue will do the job perfectly because it's kind of like a lacquer, really. A lacquer is a thick gluey substance you spray onto a guitar that then goes hard and you polish it up to a glass finish. Depending on the glue, you can do exactly the same thing. So the glue will give it a nice, hard, firm seal. Then I have to fix a problem. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So let me see if I can just move this around a little bit. So if I, turn the light off. So I'm not sure how well you'll be able to see this. Maybe if I move it back a little bit. Oh, there you go. So when I went to clamp this down, I couldn't find my bridge clamp. Now my bridge clamp would sit across here, and it pins in through and it tightens in through the bridge pin holes. So it holds the thing almost against itself. But I don't know where mine is for some reason, because you don't do this every day. So I've obviously put it down somewhere and misplaced it. So what I thought was I would improvise and I would just clamp using bits of wood and things like that, which would have been absolutely fine had I not tightened it just a fraction too tight. So then what I heard was a kind of bang. In fact, let me talk to you up here for a minute. So then what I heard was a bang. And that bang was, the sound of it is almost like a piece of glass cracking. So I knew that I had over tightened it with this improvised clamp that I'd made. And there's nothing you can do about it. Once it's done, it's done. But because of the sound, what I suspected and what I then later proved was that it had cracked the lacquer, but it hadn't cracked the actual body, the wood itself. So I used an endoscope, which is a camera on a long sort of thin wire, to have a look inside. There's no crack inside, so I know the wood from the body is actually okay. So it's literally just cracked the lacquer on the top. So if I now show you that, hopefully you'll be able to see it. You can see it clearly there. So there is and this is because of light refraction. So you could just see there's a light kind of white line there. And that's where basically the crack is. So no real great problem, because I can kind of get rid of that. So what my plan is that I will use a very thin, sort of very viscous glue, and I will put the glue down that crack and I will press up from underneath to open the crack slightly to allow the glue to go in, and then I will press down on it and I'll put a weight on there. So I'm not going to clamp it, I'm going to put a weight on there, because there's no ridge, there's no lip or anything, so it's not like the two pieces have gone like that or split or anything like that. So what I'll do is I'll then put some glue on there. So I'm going to put some tape down either side of this to limit the places that the glue can go. And then once it's dry, in fact before it's dry, I'll give it a wipe off, just so that it's as flush with the surface as it can be. And then I'll use my little scraper to scrape off the excess and then polish it back to a final finish. And then that should ensure that there is absolutely no movement and that the crack is completely sealed. It's just one of those things. It kind of happens sometimes, and what I should have done is I probably should have found my clamp and waited, really, but I was keen to get on, and so I just kind of and my improvised clamp would have actually been fine as well, had I not just decided to exercise my muscles and kind of over tighten it, and it literally was a fraction of a turn, but that's what happens. So I shall get my tools out, I shall get on with that, and then we'll see, hopefully we'll see the finished product. Right, so we've had a bit of a clean up on R5, if I call it that. So where I did the super glue in the cracks, Obviously I had a bit of a clean up to do after, because despite trying not to get it anywhere other than where you want it to go, it does go. So I've just been cleaning that up, and invariably what I've noticed is, let me see if I can switch this around, is I noticed that along the edge, just here, and just along here, there were the tiniest of little kind of scratch marks where the razor blade had just kind of dug in. And it's easy to do. It can be that it picks up a piece of glue, that it picks up a piece of grit, whatever it might be, and it created some tiny little hairline sort of scratches. So what I've basically done is I've been sanding it down, and what I'm using is these little sanding blocks. So I start off with about 3,200 grit, and they are wet, so I dip them in water, just because it doesn't cut in quite as much as when it's dry. And then I move to 6,000, and then I move to 8,000, and I'm just going to do a little bit with 8,000, and then I'm going to finish off with my 12,000. And then at that point, the scratches and that should be negligible. With the untrained eye, you shouldn't be able to see them at all. And then what I'm going to do as a final step is I'm just going to polish the guitar with a bit of cutting compound. It's a polishing compound, which is a very, 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 very fine grit, almost like a liquid sandpaper. I'm just going to use that to do a final buff up, so that, even to the trained eye, hopefully you will never see any signs that there were any marks at all. That's the other side. So it's still wider than I would like it to be, but I think we'll be okay with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my thin glue, so my thin CA, and I'm just going to literally daub it across there. But what I'm going to do on the inside is I'm going to just press that body up a little bit, so that we get a nice run inside of that crack. What I'm going to do is leave that for probably about 20 minutes, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the scraper to just take the top off so that it's back to flush, and then I'll sand it in the same way that I did for the bridge. So it's a waiting game now, so we'll kind of leave this alone, go and have a cup of coffee or whatever it is, and we'll come back and we'll have a look at it when it's dry. Right, so I have taken the tape off. There was a lovely little ridge of glue. So what I've done now is I have taken that ridge down with a razor blade, and I am now just very, very tentatively just smoothing this down. So my aim is to get it so that pretty much you can't see. Okay, so we are done. I have sanded the living daylights out of this thing. I have glued the bridge back in place. I cracked it, I re-glued it, I sanded it, I polished it. But it is done, or at least it is done as much as I think I need to. So if I show you where we are. Okay, let me try that again. People coming to the door, helicopters going overhead. So I am, in my mind, I'm done with the guitar. So where have we got to? The last you saw, I think I was starting to, I'd glued the crack. I can't remember, I don't think I did. I scraped the crack off. I scraped the glue off of the crack with my razor blade there, if you can see it. And what I do is I just bend the razor blade to create a concave surface, and that way only a tiny little bit of the blade is actually connecting with the body. And that way I don't have to do quite so much polishing to bring it back to like a glassy finish. So let me show you where I've got to. So if you look down there, I can see that properly. So the bridge is now done. It's fixed in place. I've cleaned up the glue. I've polished all around it. So that's kind of, I'm happy with that. The crack that I put in the lacquer, I have glued it and I have sanded it. And you literally, there is the tiniest of kind of lips there, almost indistinguishable. But from the camera point of view, I think you can't even see the crack anymore. So that refraction of light that you could see before, you can't see it. This is a different bit of grain, so that's not the same. But what you will see when I hold it up like that is you will just see the faintest of lines. To the finger, that is almost indistinguishable. So I'm kind of happy that that's enough to, so the crack is sealed, so the lacquer is sealed, and I've sanded it down smooth. So there's no real danger in terms of it breaking or splitting or anything like that. So and the glue is super strong. So last thing is get the strings back in, get the pins back, bridge pins back in. We'll tune her up and we'll see how she plays, see if it all still holds together. So let me go and get my tuner and the bridge pins and the saddle, wherever I've put those, and then we'll do the last bit. Okay, so there she is. So you can see the bridge is nicely glued down. The crack is gone.